Okay, so they produce products which farmers would buy to spray on their crops that would replace existing chemical
they
ones?
would be sold by big ag to farmers as more efficient,
right,
price parity or cheaper.
right.
But the point is, we're not trying to.
So they're selling to big ag.
Exactly.
So these are because your companies are quite early stage startups, right? Would you say like
pre-seed, seed, Series A. So
Right.
all of our investments thus far have been seed and Series A.
Okay.
So
And the idea is to get those companies, this company to sell to big ag. So those must be big contracts.
To license those
those
fungal microbe candidates. Yeah.
Okay. And then they just produce it massive volumes of liquid or whatever that has the fungal microbes in them.
Probably more appropriately a sort of a dried powder or medium through which, and then you put that in an IBC tank full of water, and then you spray it on your crop.
So what I'm trying to get at here is the business model of a company like that is incredibly exciting. It's a very clean sales channel in that it's only selling to so many of the big ag players, and they've got very strong relationships there.
How many are there?
Well, it depends where you are and what type of crop.
Right.
But there are only a small handful in each section, if you like. So they've been very clever around how they built their board and their advisors and their business development team, and they already have relationships, and they already have non-exclusive commercial relationships with all of the players that they need, at least within this first period, to license their first products.
Non-exclusive because the big ag companies might want to have exclusivity.
Which we wouldn't deem to be a hugely fair process.
Sure.
So yes.
Okay.
And then through to companies like No Fence, who are doing virtual fencing, which allows you to amp graze, as we were talking about earlier, but essentially move your livestock across a landscape in a way that is optimal for soil growth over a period of time without the onerous task of having to bang in fence posts on a daily basis.
Right.
And we've had farmers explain, to No Fence, but about how they've actually been able to take their wife on a date for the first time in 10 years. Because
so how does that No Fence technology work?
So GPS-enabled Pavlovian response to an audible cue. Okay. So imagine you're wearing the collar, and if you move towards the virtual fence, which is GPS-enabled, you'll hear an audible cue going beep, 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 beep. And if you keep going, the sound will get louder, and eventually you'll get a zap.
A zap. So the animals wear some kind of collar or something.
Yes.
Which is then gives a zap. Then they're like, okay, every time it goes beep, 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 I'm going to get a zap. So walk away.
So they train to it. So they now have large data sets on this. So first of all, the electric shock is half that of a traditional fence. So that's important to state. And the second thing is all of the data is showing that cattle, sheep and goats get trained to this system very quickly, and it's only a small percentage of the herd that actually get shocks.
Right.
And that small percentage of the herd are actually the inquisitive animals that are trying to graze the grass at the edge of the fence line. And they often put on the most weight, and they're the sort of the most, let's say, the most independent
risk takers
of the group.
I want to get that grass. Get that grass.
So in fact, the animal welfare data on that system looks like it's superior to a lot of other.
So I guess once they're trained on it, so it's like if you give them a few zaps, then they just generally, apart from this 2% adventurous type,
they respect the fence.
Yeah, they respect it. And then you can just like on some iPad be like, right, animals move over there, and then the virtual fence would move.
It'll even draw a corridor for you.
And then you just start seeing the animals move by the beeping they're hearing.
So let's say you've got a field. Some farms around the UK are non-contiguous, i.e., their farmland is separated, let's say, by a village, and they have to move their cows, with huge disruption across a bridge, let's say, or across a road, with the logistical nightmare that people have been managing for hundreds of years. With No Fence, you can actually create a corridor, and the animals will respect the corridor and move through it onto the new paddock that you've set for them.
I'd love to see that on a time lapse of just how it all works, them moving.
Yeah, and then the old fence line will then fold in behind them. It's very cool.
Right.
Or if you just don't particularly enjoy your neighbour's garden, and you lead a flock of sheep in at 4:00 in the morning, and then have them out again by 4:30, having decimated your poor neighbour's garden.
Right.
But in all seriousness, it has multiple it's opening up innovation in agroecology that was very difficult beforehand. So an example of that will be grazing through woodlands
Right.
and forests, which is actually really important to do in the Mediterranean right now in order to reduce the risk of forest fires.
Right.
Because the animals will eat the grass, which is like a tinder in summertime. They will eat that grass and kickstart the soil biological process, improve water infiltration, essentially reduce the brash and the amount of tinder that's available in that forest that would set off and trigger a forest fire. But grazing through woodland is incredibly difficult to manage, logistically speaking. But with no fence, it becomes a breeze.